I drove 2 hours through freezing rain to surprise my parents for Christmas Eve. My sister opened the door halfway and said, "We're kind of doing immediate family only." I just drove off. Returning home, I opened my laptop and closed every account that had my name on it. By dawn, the family chat was on fire. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I wanted it to be a surprise. For once, I wanted to be the person who showed up with something meaningful. Not expensive, not flashy, just something that showed I thought of them. I started planning in early December. I even made a little checklist in my notes app. For Mom, I got a soft green scarf from a small online shop, her favorite color. For Dad, a new stainless steel thermos with a locking lid because the one he used for work always leaked into his briefcase. For Haley's kids, I picked out a dinosaur hoodie and a beginner puzzle set that lights up when completed. I know what they like. I pay attention. For Haley's husband, I added a pair of knit gloves and a bottle of hot sauce I found at a holiday market. It said ridiculously spicy and had a flaming skull on it. Seemed like something he'd brag about using. The gifts weren't expensive, but I took time with each of them. I wrapped everything myself, just brown paper and yarn instead of ribbon. I drew little stars on the tags. I even wrote a short note for each gift, trying to make it personal. My roommate helped me load the bags into my trunk the morning of Christmas Eve. She knew I was excited even if I tried to play it off. I told her I'd probably be back the next day, maybe the 26th, depending on how things went. The drive should have taken 2 hours. It took nearly 3.5. Freezing rain started just as I crossed into Pennsylvania. My windshield wipers were fighting a losing battle against the ice, and I passed at least 2 cars in the ditch. I stopped once for gas and coffee, sat in the car for 5 minutes before getting back on the road. The whole way there, I imagined what their faces would look like when they saw me. I hadn't come home last year or the year before. This time I wanted to show them I still cared, that I still tried. When I finally pulled onto their street, the houses were glowing with string lights and wreaths. Snow had gathered in soft piles along the sidewalk. It looked like a postcard. I left the bags in the car for a minute and walked up to the porch with just my purse. I rang the bell. I could hear the TV inside, someone laughing, the sound of wrapping paper crinkling. For a second it all felt normal. I was already smiling. Then the door opened just a sliver. Haley stood there. She looked at me like I was the unexpected one, like I had just interrupted something sacred. "We're kind of doing immediate family only." At first I didn't even get what she meant. I looked past her, saw my parents sitting on the couch laughing. My dad was holding a plate of food. My mom was sipping from one of the mugs I sent her last Christmas. I asked her what she was talking about. She just repeated it lower this time. Not angry, just dismissive, like I was a neighbor stopping by with a flyer. Behind her, no one noticed me. No one even looked at the door. It didn't occur to any of them that maybe I had driven hours through a storm to be there. That maybe I wanted to feel like part of something again. I turned around, walked back to the car. My hands were shaking when I grabbed the bags. I drove down the street, pulled into the parking lot of a CVS and sat there for a long time. Thought about what to do. Thought about leaving the gifts on their porch. Thought about texting someone asking them to come out and at least take them. Then I put the bags in the trunk and drove home. It was still snowing by the time I pulled into my apartment building. I didn't take off my coat. I just went straight to my laptop and started closing things. Every shared account, streaming services, grocery lists, the Amazon Prime I had been paying for on behalf of the whole family. I revoked access to the Wi-Fi account Haley used at her office. I unsubscribed them from my Costco plan. I didn't announce it. I didn't send a message or a warning. I just cut the cord. By morning my phone was buzzing non-stop. Haley asked where I went. Mom sent a string of texts asking if I was okay and whether I was still coming. My dad sent me a Facebook sticker of a grumpy cat holding a sign that said, "Holidays, am I right?" They had no clue. They thought I was just sulking, being sensitive, taking something too personally. They didn't know this was the beginning of something they wouldn't come back from. And they definitely didn't expect what I was about to do next. Christmas morning was dead quiet. I woke up around 7 o'clock and just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to nothing. No sounds of wrapping paper, no smell of cinnamon rolls, no rustling kids trying to sneak downstairs. Just silence and the occasional buzz from my phone lighting up with more texts I refused to read. I made a single cup of coffee, sat by the window and watched the snowfall. I hadn't turned on the heat last night, so the apartment was still cold. I kind of liked it that way. Felt appropriate. The bags of gifts were still sitting where I left them by the kitchen table, half covered with an old throw blanket. I kept thinking maybe I should just bring them down to the lobby, leave them for someone else to find. Maybe a neighbor, maybe a stranger, maybe no one. By 10 my phone had rung at least 7 times. 2 voicemails from Mom, 1 from Dad. Then back and forth again. I didn't even check them. I just sat there on the couch, blanket wrapped around my shoulders, not watching the TV that had been playing the same Hallmark movie since midnight. But around noon something changed. One last voicemail. I don't know what made me listen. Maybe it was the way Mom's voice cracked when she said she was sorry that she didn't want the day to end like this, that they were coming over. At 1:07 p.m. someone knocked on the door. I looked through the peephole and just stood there for a second. My parents, no Haley, just them. I opened the door, didn't say anything. They looked tired, and not just from the drive. Mom was clutching a grocery bag with something wrapped in tin foil. Dad had a grocery store poinsettia in one hand and what looked like a frozen pie in the other. Neither of them looked sure of what to say. We just wanted to see you spend the day together, even if it's like this. I let them in. They stepped into the apartment like it was sacred ground, like it belonged to someone they hadn't seen in years. They sat on the edge of the couch looking around at the little things they probably never paid attention to before. Photos on the wall, the tiny fake tree in the corner that I never plugged in. Mom started with the usual excuses. Haley didn't tell us. We didn't know. You know we would have. He trailed off a lot. Kept touching the hem of her sweater. Dad chimed in a few times, backing her up, but he didn't look me in the eye until much later. I didn't respond to most of it, just sat there, arms crossed, waiting to see how far they'd go. Eventually Mom asked if she could put the casserole in the oven. I nodded. Dad turned on the TV and muted it. That was our Christmas. 3 people sitting in a room full of things unsaid, watching a muted movie, pretending it was still a holiday. At some point I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and pulled the bags of gifts from under the blanket. I placed them in front of them without saying a word. They opened them slowly. The scarf, the thermos, the little notes I had written. They read each one, looking confused, then touched. Mom teared up at hers. Dad didn't say much, but just held the thermos like he'd never seen one before. You didn't have to do this. I didn't answer. The day wore on like that, carefully, like none of us knew how to talk without setting something off. But as the afternoon stretched into evening, they got more comfortable. Mom offered to make hot cocoa. Dad cracked a joke about one of the neighbors down the hall snoring in the elevator. It almost felt normal, but in the way someone might play act normal. Then came the shift. They started asking about the accounts. Haley told us some stuff isn't working. The Netflix, the Amazon. Is that just a glitch? Dad asked casually. I didn't flinch. I just said, no, it's not a glitch. They paused, then started talking about how hard the year's been. How Haley's got 2 kids now and needs the help. How they didn't realize I felt so distant, and how we could fix it together. That's when I realized why they really came. It wasn't just about Christmas. It was about pulling me back in. I was the support beam they didn't want to lose. I didn't say much, but I told them I'd think about it. That maybe I could put things back the way they were. Maybe. They looked relieved, almost victorious. Mom hugged me tightly before going to bed in the spare room. Dad asked if I had an extra blanket and said he'd sleep on the couch. I went into my room and shut the door. For the first time all day I let myself believe that maybe I had done something right, that maybe this was how things got better. That maybe love was something you could earn back with time, silence, and effort. But I should have known better. December 26th hadn't come yet. And that was the day everything snapped again. They left like burglars. I didn't hear a word, just the faint creak of the floor near the front door and a soft click as it shut. No note on my bedroom door. No knock, no thanks for having us. When I finally got out of bed around 9 o'clock, the living room looked untouched, like they'd never been there. The folded blanket on the couch. The half-empty bottle of wine still on the counter. The grocery store poinsettia they brought sat on the windowsill like it had been abandoned. Their shoes were gone. The pie dish was gone. Even the used mugs were washed and turned upside down by the sink like it was some kind of silent peace offering. There was a note though on the counter. Thanks for letting us spend Christmas together. We love you. Let's keep moving forward, Mom and Dad. That phrase again, moving forward. It always meant the same thing. Let's not talk about what really happened. Let's skip the part where anyone takes responsibility. Let's just reset like nothing broke. I didn't touch the note. I made coffee and sat on the edge of the couch with the TV off. No sound, no lights, just the hum of the fridge and the memory of their voices echoing around the apartment pretending things were fixed. I don't know how long I sat like that, but at 10:14 a.m. everything shifted. My phone buzzed. It was Haley. The message was short, casual, like she was texting someone she gossiped with every day. She wrote, "Mo, Stacy actually believed all that. OMG, we deserve an Oscar. She's so F*** King eel," and then it vanished. Deleted, but not fast enough. I saw the full thing. I screenshotted it before my brain even processed what she'd done. Her name, her profile picture, her words. Clear as day. She thought she was texting someone else. Probably mom. Maybe her husband. Maybe one of her fake friends. But it came to me. I just stared at it, heart pounding, not even blinking. They'd come here to put on a show. The hugs, the gifts, the carefully timed apology, the "we miss you." None of it was real. It was all a script, and I was the idiot in the audience clapping at the end. Called mom. She picked up immediately. Her voice was already tight, like she knew what was coming. I didn't scream. I didn't ask questions. I just read Haley's message out loud, slowly, making sure she heard every single word. She went silent. Then she tried. Said Haley didn't mean it like that. Said it was a joke. Said it was just nerves, that they were relieved I'd finally opened up and it just came out wrong. She started with that fake concern again, that wobbly voice she uses when she's trying to steer the conversation. I cut her off. I told her it was done. No more money, no more accounts, no more supporting the family. She asked what that meant. I told her to figure it out, just like I had to. Every time they left me out or leaned on me when it was convenient, she started scrambling. Said they'd come back, that we could talk in person. That one mistake shouldn't undo everything we just built. She even said she'd bring the cookies I liked, as if that would fix it. I told her no, I wasn't doing this again. Then I hung up, blocked her. Then I blocked Haley. Her number, her Instagram, her Facebook, gone. I didn't stop there. I went back through everything. Removed Haley's access to the family photo archive I'd been paying to store. Removed their access from the Google Calendar we used for coordinating anything. Even unsubscribed the shared family login from the grocery delivery app they all used. Then that evening an email came in from Dad. He never emails me. The subject line was blank. The body of the email was one sentence. "You don't mean this. Let's talk." I didn't reply because I did mean it. And for once I wasn't second-guessing whether I was being too harsh. For once I wasn't trying to calculate how to be the bigger person. I just let it end. I sat there in the quiet and realized I wasn't waiting for them to fix it anymore. They'd never been planning to. December 27th came and went in total silence. No calls, no follow-ups, nothing from Mom, nothing from Dad. Haley had disappeared completely. Not a single ping from the family chat. It was like the whole family had gone into hiding, hoping I'd cool off and they could slide back in like nothing had happened. But I wasn't cooling off. I spent the day stripping every reminder of them out of my space. I boxed up the wine glasses they used, threw away the dried-out poinsettia, even tossed the note Mom left on the counter into the trash without reading it again. I bleached the countertop and burned the candle they gave me last year in some hollow attempt at connection. But then the next morning, December 28th, I got a call from Aunt Valerie. We barely speak. She's my mom's older sister, the kind of woman who hosts perfect-looking barbecues and signs every birthday card with love and light. I hadn't talked to her in over a year. So when her name popped up on my screen, I stared at it for a good 10 seconds before answering. She didn't start with hello. She just asked what the hell happened on Christmas. I didn't say much at first, just listened. Apparently Mom had sent out a message to the extended family 2 nights ago saying I had cut myself off again and struggled emotionally during the holidays. He made it sound like I was unstable, like they tried so hard to include me and I just rejected the love they offered. But what Mom hadn't counted on was that I still had the screenshot. I told Valerie everything from the beginning. The drive, the freezing rain, Haley's face behind the half-closed door, the fake visit, the fake kindness, and finally the message that cracked it all open. I read it to her slowly. Mo, Stacy actually believed all that. OMG, we deserve an Oscar. She's so F*** king. Easy. Valerie didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then she asked me to forward the screenshot. I did. She sighed. Said she wasn't surprised. Said Haley had always been like that, entitled, manipulative, protected. She thanked me for being honest and told me she'd take it from there. I didn't expect anything else. I figured she'd maybe talk to Mom, maybe confront Haley quietly. But by the afternoon it was clear this wasn't staying quiet. Cousin Tyler texted me. You could just saw what Haley said. Unreal. Then Aunt Lynn messaged me. I'm honestly disgusted. I believed her when she said, you were just being dramatic. Then I got a follow request from Uncle Dave, who I hadn't heard from in 10 years. One by one people started reaching out. Not with pity, just recognition. Like they'd finally seen what I'd seen for years. By that evening Haley had vanished from social media. Her Instagram was gone. Facebook deactivated. Even her Pinterest was wiped. Mom tried calling from a different number. I let it ring. On the 29th a letter came in the mail. No return address, but I recognized Dad's writing on the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper. He wrote that he didn't support what Haley said, but families shouldn't fall apart over one mistake. He said things had gotten out of hand, that forgiveness is what makes families work, that they hoped I'd come around before the new year. I folded the letter and slid it into the back of my desk drawer. I didn't respond. Not yet. By the 30th my phone had stopped buzzing. The wave of distant relatives reacting to the screenshot had passed, but the silence that followed felt different now. Not the cold, guilty kind. This time it felt earned. New Year's Eve came. I didn't go anywhere. I made dinner for myself. Nothing fancy, just pasta and roasted vegetables. I poured a glass of wine, lit a candle, and turned on some quiet music. At midnight the city was mostly silent. No fireworks, no countdown parties, just the faint sound of someone playing music down the hall and the echo of my own thoughts. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad, just clean, clear. For the first time I'd watched the whole thing fall apart, and I didn't run in to fix it. I let it burn. And honestly, the quiet was better than I ever expected. The first week of the new year passed in slow, quiet pieces. No phone calls, no emails, not even a pity like on my New Year's post from one of the aunts. At first I was braced for it. I kept expecting some big theatrical move from my mom. Maybe a letter in the mail or a visit. Maybe Haley would try to guilt me in a group message. Or Dad would call and do his whole let's be reasonable routine. But nothing came. And honestly, it was almost worse, because silence from them always came with strings. Like they were waiting me out. Like I was just a tantrum they had to outlast. The thing is, I wasn't fuming anymore. I was done. Really done. I started doing things that felt like cleaning up after a fire. I went through old photos on my laptop, backed up the ones I actually cared about, deleted the rest. I pulled their birthdays from my calendar, cleared out saved addresses. I even got a new password manager and stopped sharing my streaming services. It was like I was slowly removing their fingerprints from my life. Then on January 3rd I got a voicemail from Mom. I hadn't heard her voice since she tried to talk me down after Haley's message. This time she sounded like someone trying to stay calm in a customer service call. She said, "We understand you need space and we're going to give that to you, but just know that we're still willing to visit if that's something you're open to. No pressure, just we'd like to see you again." Like they were being generous. Like their presence was a gift I should be grateful for. That's when it hit me. They really didn't get it. They thought this whole thing was about one message, a stupid, cruel message Haley sent and then deleted. They didn't see the years before that. The dozens of ignored invitations, the whispered comments, the way they'd all quietly agreed that my place was to give and be quiet about it. I didn't respond. On January 5th I got a text from Aunt Valerie. She said Haley had started messaging people behind the scenes, trying to spin everything, saying it was an inside joke taken out of context, that I'd twisted things to make her look bad, that I'd always been sensitive. I wasn't even angry. I was almost impressed. Haley was doing exactly what she'd always done, making herself the victim, painting me as some overemotional problem that needed to be managed. Then late that night one of my cousins sent me a screenshot of Haley's latest move. She had posted a long caption under a carefully filtered photo of her and her kids in front of their Christmas tree. Something about family forgiveness, holiday miscommunications, and how some people choose to make private matters public when they're hurting. No names, no specifics, just enough to cast herself as the calm wounded one, the mother, the peacemaker. I stared at it for a long time, not because it hurt but because I finally saw it for what it was: desperation. So I deleted the family group chat for good this time. Not archived, not muted, gone. Then I left the shared Google Drive where all the family photos were. I pulled my credit card from the Amazon household account. I even unsubscribed them for my grocery delivery discount, the one they all used but never paid for. I shut every single door and I didn't announce it. Then on January 10th my birthday came. No text, no card, no half-hearted call, no post from mom tagging me in some blurry photo from childhood. Not even a message from dad, who usually remembered at the last minute. Nothing. And I can't lie, I waited for something. I told myself I didn't care, but I kept checking my phone throughout the day, waiting to see a name pop up, just out of habit, maybe curiosity, but it stayed quiet. And weirdly, that was what finally made it feel over. Not dramatic, just final. That night 2 of my closest friends came over. We ordered Thai food, opened a bottle of wine, and watched the worst movie we could find on streaming. They sang me happy birthday in the worst harmonies I've ever heard. We laughed until 2 a.m. And when I finally went to bed, I didn't feel hollow. I didn't miss them. I missed the version of them I kept hoping they'd be, but not the people they actually were. And for the first time, that difference didn't hurt. This made sense. By mid-January, the dust had fully settled. Or at least I thought it had. The days had become quiet in a way that didn't bother me anymore. I was working, cooking real meals, sleeping better. I started walking every evening just to get out of the apartment. No podcasts, no music, just the cold air and the sound of my own boots on the sidewalk. Then one night, out of nowhere, I got a message from my cousin Liz. All it said was, "I heard everything. You were right." I didn't answer right away. I just stared at it. She wasn't someone I was especially close to. I always liked her, but she stayed on the sidelines, kept things polite. For her to say that out loud meant something. Then came more. Another cousin messaged, "I used to think you were just distant. I didn't know how much you were holding." Aunt Lynn texted me directly. "I don't know how I missed all of it. I'm so sorry." Even Uncle Dave actually called and left a voicemail where he admitted that they'd been letting Haley get away with crap for years. One by one they were coming out of the fog, seeing it for what it really was. Not just a Christmas gone wrong, but a pattern that had been there for years. Haley didn't just manipulate me. She made sure everyone else had a version of the story that kept her clean and charming and misunderstood. And my parents backed her every time. It wasn't some dark family secret. It was just a slow corrosion that everyone had gotten used to. "You'll know." Valerie told me she stopped talking to Haley altogether. Said she was sick of the deflection, the lying, the way she played the victim in every conversation. She didn't send me the details, but she made it clear. Lines had been drawn. Mom tried once more. Just one last text. "Stacy, I hope you're happy. You've turned your cousins against your sister. I don't know what you think this solves." I didn't reply because she still didn't get it. It wasn't about turning anyone against anyone. I hadn't asked anyone to choose sides. I hadn't shared the screenshot beyond Valerie. I didn't post anything publicly. All I did was stop covering for them. And once I stopped, people saw everything on their own. The truth was, I hadn't lost my family. I just stopped pretending I needed that version of it. Haley, of course, stayed quiet. She never apologized, never explained, never owned anything. She disappeared from most conversations, stopped showing up in the group photos some of the family shared. And when she did reappear, it was always surface-level photos of her kids' recipes, fitness updates. But no one was really liking or commenting anymore. New Year's had come and gone, and now we were just another family that fractured in slow motion. I spent the last weekend of January sitting in a cafe with Liz. We hadn't seen each other in almost 2 years. She bought me coffee and said she'd been waiting for someone to call it all out. Then she asked the one question no one else had. "How long were you carrying it before you snapped?" I just laughed and said, "Too long." It wasn't a clean ending. There was no final confrontation, no dramatic family intervention, just silence on one side and clarity on the other. And that was enough. It wasn't the Christmas I wanted. It wasn't the family I thought I had. But what I got was better. It got free.